Have you ever just stopped and really thought about the financial system? I mean, the whole thing. The stock market, all the currencies, that massive global web of money. It feels so solid, so real, doesn't it? Permanent. But what if I told you that it's all held together by, well, by a story, a promise we all just agree to believe in? In this explainer, we're going to pull back that curtain and give you a 5-step plan to protect yourself inside that very story. Okay, let's just dive right in with a huge question. What if the money you work so hard for, the pounds and pence sitting in your savings account, aren't tangible things at all? And look, this isn't some conspiracy theory. This is about understanding how modern finance actually works. And trust me, once you get it, you will never see your money the same way again. Now check this out. This slide pretty much flips our entire idea of money on its head. We think of the notes and coins in our pocket, right? Well, that physical cash, that only makes up about 8% of all the money in the world. The other 92%? It's just numbers and computer systems. It's entries on a massive digital ledger. That's it. So how on earth do you navigate a world where money is mostly digital and based on, well, belief? Here's our roadmap for today. First, we're going to understand money's biggest secret. Then we'll look at the real risk in banks. After that, we'll talk about how to invest for the long time, learn the big lessons from 2008, and finally, look at how we can all have a say in the future of our money. Okay, step one, let's get to the heart of the money we use every single day. Because it wasn't always just a promise. Nope, it used to be tied to something physical, something you could actually hold in your hand. Let's take a look at how that all changed. Since way back in 1971, currencies like the pound sterling, or the US dollar for that matter, have been what's known as fiat currency. The word fiat literally comes from Latin, and it means let it be done. So basically, our money has value simply because the government says it does, and we all agree to believe them. It's not backed by gold bars sitting in a vault somewhere. It's backed purely by our collective trust in the system. And that right there is the most important point of all. Think about it. You work 40 hours a week, you plan your entire life, you save for retirement, all using something that has no value on its own. The only reason this whole incredibly complex global system works is because billions of us, all around the world, agree to believe in the story. It's a psychological thing, sure, but it's way more powerful than any gold standard ever was. Right, so money is a shared belief. Got it. But what happens when you take that money and deposit it in a bank? Well, it doesn't just sit in a vault with your name on it. Oh, no. It goes to work. And that whole process, while it's absolutely vital for the economy, comes with a huge fundamental risk. This is something called fractional reserve banking. Let me walk you through it. So you deposit £1,000. The bank has to keep a small bit of that, let's say £100 in reserve. But then it lends out the other 900 quid to someone else. Now that loan gets deposited in another bank, which then lends out a chunk of that. And so on, and so on. Your original deposit gets multiplied across the whole economy. You see, banks don't just store money, they literally create it. And this is the system's one fatal weakness, a bank run. Because all that money has been lent out, if every single depositor shows up on the same day demanding their cash back, the bank simply doesn't have it. We saw this happen in 2023 with Silicon Valley Bank. It collapsed in less than 48 hours because social media fueled a digital bank run faster than anything we've ever seen before. So, how does all this fit into the bigger world of investing? Well, beyond the banks, you've got this vast, kind of terrifying world of financial markets. For an average UK saver, trying to figure this out can feel impossible. But you know what? The core principle is actually surprisingly simple. Just to give you a sense of scale, have a look at this. The entire global economy, everything humanity produces in a whole year, is about $100 trillion. But the stock and bond markets, they're more than double that. And then there's the derivatives market. These are basically complex financial contracts, bets on future prices. This market, it's worth a staggering $600 trillion or more. It's a financial world that just completely dwarfs the real economy. So how do you win in a game this massive? Well, here's the secret. You don't try to win by outsmarting it. You just patiently take part. Now, listen to this statistic because it's wild. Out of more than 7,500 trading days in 30 years, if you panicked, pulled your money out, and missed just the 10 best days, your total return would be sliced in half. The lesson here is crystal clear. Trying to time the market is a fool's game. So, if you can't time the market, what should you do? Well, you basically have two choices. You can pay a professional in a fancy suit, an active fund manager, high fees for all these complex strategies that, get this, fail to beat the market 90% of the time. Or you can choose the simple, boring, low-cost index fund that just aims to match the market's performance. And hey, you don't have to take my word for it. Warren Buffett, who's arguably the greatest investor of all time, has said again and again that for most people, the best thing they can possibly do is just buy a low-cost index fund. And hold on, it's all about time in the market, not timing the market. Now, all these ideas we've been talking about, how everything's connected, hidden risks, these complex financial products, they all came to a spectacular, terrifying head in 2008. Understanding what went down back then is absolutely crucial to protecting yourself today, mainly because a lot of the underlying problems, they were never really fixed. The weapon of mass financial destruction in 2008 was the CDO. The idea was actually kind of clever on the surface. You take thousands of individual mortgages, you bundle them all up together, and then you sell slices of that bundle to investors all over the world. Think of it like making a giant financial fruit salad. But here's where it went wrong. The banks started throwing really risky subprime mortgages into the mix. So instead of spreading the risk, which was the whole point, the bundling process was actually used to hide the risk. That financial fruit salad was being packed with rotten fruit, but from the outside it was almost impossible to tell. And the deception went even deeper. The financial system's referees, the credit rating agencies, gave these toxic bundles their highest possible safety rating, AAA. They were basically telling the entire world that a package of dodgy mortgages was as safe as a government bond. It was an absolute, catastrophic failure of oversight. So, when U.S. house prices finally started to fall, people couldn't pay their mortgages, and that rotten fruit poisoned the entire global system. And because everyone, from banks to pension funds to insurers, was connected to these toxic assets, the failure of one little part triggered a terrifying global chain reaction that nearly brought the whole thing crashing down. And that brings us to our final step, because the financial system is always changing, always evolving, and the next big shift is already on the horizon. It's called a central bank digital currency, or CBDC, and it could change everything. This slide really lays out the massive trade-off we're facing with this new technology. On one hand, a CBDC, a digital pound issued directly by the Bank of England, promises unbelievable efficiency. Instant transfers, zero fees. Sounds great, right? But on the other hand, there's a serious peril, the potential for total government surveillance of every single transaction you ever make, and even programmable money that could be designed to expire or be restricted. So, after all that, what are the key takeaways for you, a saver here in the UK? First, and most importantly, don't panic. The system is built on trust, yes, but it has proven to be incredibly resilient. Second, for your investments, just play the long game. Low-cost index funds are your friend. Third, understand that your bank is a business, not a vault, but the deposit insurance does offer protection up to a certain limit. And finally, you really need to pay close attention to the debate around digital currencies. It's not some techie thing. It's a debate about the future of your financial privacy. You know, in the end, it all comes back to this one idea. Money is a shared story. It's a powerful, brilliant, and sometimes pretty fragile fiction that we all just agree to believe in. The technology is changing, the risks are evolving, but the one thing that never changes is that we, the people who use this system, get to have a say in what story we tell next. The only question is, what will that next chapter look like?